My wife's call came in just as I was leaving the office. She was out with clients, and it was getting late. A familiar unease settled over me, so I decided to drive to the restaurant to pick her up. But what I saw when I got there was my wife, a woman who prided herself on ironclad boundaries, collapsing into the arms of her young assistant. Betrayal, I realized, comes in different shades of green. In that moment, I decided I was done. Divorce. The laughter from the private room spilled out the second the door opened. "Anna, the night's still young," a man slurred. "How about we move this party to the club?" Then I saw her. My wife, Anna, the ever-composed CO, was leaning heavily against her assistant, Leo. Her hair, usually pinned up with severe precision, was loose around his shoulders. Her tailored blazer was rumpled, revealing the strap of her lingerie. Anna was always the alpha, never showing a hint of weakness in front of her subordinates. Leo spotted me over her shoulder. He flinched, trying to prop Anna up as if he'd been burned, but she just melted back against him, burrowing deeper into his chest. "What are you doing?" she murmured. "Don't worry," he whispered back, his voice oozing a protective tone. "I'm here. No one's going to mess with you." Her voice, thick with a drunken slur but laced with an unmistakable, possessive edge, was a seductive, dangerous cocktail. The sight of it churned something ugly in my gut. When Anna first took over Bancroft Enterprises, she was fighting a war on two fronts. Inside, the old guard refused to respect a recent graduate they saw as a little girl playing dress-up. Outside, the market wrote her off, calling Bancroft a sinking ship. But with sheer grit, she'd executed a brutal restructuring. She slashed half the company's legacy projects, consolidating capital into a few key ventures. She purged the board of its dead weight, the sycophantic old-timers who'd been bleeding the company dry for years, even ousting members of her own family. No one at the company wasn't afraid of her. Veteran employees with a decade under their belts walked on eggshells around her, terrified of making a single mistake. She balanced work and our life with surgical precision, and in all her years, not a single rumor of scandal had ever touched her name. The press called her the Ice Queen, the CEO with the most impenetrable boundaries in the business. Yet here she was, surrendering herself completely to a junior assistant, defending him in public. None of it made sense. "Anna's had too much to drink," Leo explained, his voice trembling slightly. When I didn't respond, he added quickly, "I have a severe alcohol allergy." Anna was just covering for me with the clients. I said nothing. I walked past him and took Anna from his arms. The reek of expensive whiskey hung on her like a cheap perfume. Her body was hot against mine as I guided her toward the car. Leo trailed behind us like a lost puppy, wanting to help but shrinking back every time he met my icy gaze. I settled Anna into the back seat. She slumped down without a care, her dress riding up. I grabbed a blanket from the front and tossed it over her. Sensing my fury, Leo tried to make an exit. "Well, Mr. Carter, I should probably get going." I turned to face him. "Get in and drive us home," I commanded, my voice flat. "You can't do anything else right, but surely you can drive." The smile froze on his face. He stammered, I can't drive. Anna drove here tonight. The company driver is on leave." I stared at him. "You can't drive? And you don't drink? How in the hell did you get a job as a CEO's executive assistant? An EA who can drive is basic. The job is a constant shuffle of documents, clients, and transportation. Tonight was a perfect example. As if he hadn't heard me, he walked around to the passenger's side, opened the door, and slid in. He adjusted the seat with a practiced familiarity, then, without a shred of hesitation, opened the built-in cooler and pulled out a bottle of water. A sharp pain, like a needle, jabbed at my heart. Both Anna and I are obsessive about our personal space. No one, absolutely no one, sits in the passenger seat of our personal cars. I remember one time my cousin, on his first visit, hopped into her passenger seat. The moment he was gone, she took the car to be detailed, inside and out. But Leo looked perfectly at home, as if he'd done this 100 times before. "Are you expecting me to be your chauffeur?" My voice was dangerously low. Leo paused, the bottle halfway to his lips. He looked at me, genuinely confused, as if I were the one making a scene. Anna said she'd give me a ride home, he said with a hint of a whine. That's a you problem, not a me problem. I cut him off, my tone turning venomous. Get out of the car. He opened his mouth to argue, but my glare must have frozen the words in his throat. He knew my reputation. I don't make suggestions. I might have stepped back from the day-to-day operations, but I was Anna Bancroft's husband. More importantly, I was a primary investor with founder's shares in her company. He was a nobody, an assistant he couldn't afford to cross. He fumbled with his seatbelt, his movements slow and deliberate. As he opened the door, he shot one last look at Anna in the back, a hopeful, pleading glance as if waiting for her to intervene. But she was already lost in a drunken haze. Finally, he got out, standing awkwardly on the curb as we drove away. The drive home was a blur of anger. In the rearview mirror, I saw Anna frowning in her sleep, caught in some troubled dream. The more I replayed the details of the evening, the clearer the ugly premonition became. Some things you just know. You don't need proof. The car moved smoothly through the late-night traffic. Suddenly, Anna stirred in the back. "Leo?" she asked. I glanced in the mirror. She was sitting up straight, her clothes neatly adjusted. The drunken stupor was gone. She casually ran a hand through her hair, her voice clear and steady. "You have to fake being drunk to get away from those old sharks. Otherwise, they'd keep you there all night. If I'd actually gotten wasted, who knows what would have happened?" She leaned forward, tried to plant a kiss on my cheek. "I knew you wouldn't like it, so I didn't stop you. Don't tell me you're jealous over something so small." I instinctively pulled away. Anna's face froze for a second. Then her lips curved into a mocking smile. "What? You don't actually think there's something going on between me and my assistant, do you? Once you've seen a tiger, who's going to be impressed by a puppy?" "He's an intern," I said, my voice flat as I stated the facts. "But look at him tonight. He lacks the most basic skills. His professional etiquette is a disaster. How did someone like that even get hired?" Frustrated, I lit a cigarette. Anna's voice softened, taking on a placating tone. "He just graduated. He has no experience. He's learning. Don't be so hard on him. Weren't we the same at his age? You have to give young people a chance to grow." I took a long drag from the cigarette. "And which corporation's training program involves personal mentorship next to the CEO? Is Bancroft Enterprises that desperate for talent?" My question hit its mark. She quickly changed the subject. "All right, let's not fight over an outsider. It's not worth it. And you have no reason to be jealous. You probably don't know his family situation." Her voice softened again at the mention of Leo. "Both of his parents are sick. For years, while other kids were on vacation or playing video games, he was working multiple jobs to pay for his tuition and their medical bills. He never even touched a car before he graduated, so of course he can't drive. I'm keeping him on because he's loyal and hardworking. Someone like that, if you invest in them, will be grateful to the company for life." I didn't say another word. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. My marriage to Anna was a strategic alliance. Compared to most, we were lucky. Our families have been business partners for years, so we grew up knowing each other, familiar with each other's personalities and histories. To be honest, the Bancrofts were punching above their weight marrying into the Carter family. They were new money, flashy, and aggressive, while my family had deep-rooted connections in Washington, the kind that opened doors to major government contracts. My father had initially favored an alliance with another old money family, the Hightowers, but I saw them as too ambitious, too difficult to control after a merger. The Bancrofts, on the other hand, were manageable, and Anna herself was impressive. She was smart, poised, and understood the game. After we married, she played her part perfectly, earning my trust and my respect. With my backing, she solidified her position as CEO, and our two companies entered a golden age of collaboration. Of course, as a businessman, I always planned for the worst. While our ventures were joint, the final decision-making authority always remained with Carter Holdings. Anna had pushed back at first, but years of smooth sailing and shared profits had lulled everyone into complacency. But Leo's appearance tonight was a red flag. After years in the trenches of the business world, my gut instinct has become a survival mechanism. As a successful man, I could not tolerate such a volatile element in my marriage. The moment we got home, I called a private investigator. The next afternoon, my unease became a hard reality. The PI sent me a photo. It was the deed to a penthouse condo in a new luxury development in Tribeca 007. And the owner's name, printed in clear, bold letters, was Leo. I knew the building. It had just been completed last year, right near Anna's office. A place like that runs well over $3 million. My heart sank. I remembered suggesting last year that we buy a place in that very building. It would have cut her commute in half. She dismissed it without a second thought. The company's margins are too thin right now, she'd said. It's an unnecessary expense. We should invest that money into a couple of new projects, build a bigger nest egg for our future kids. I lit a cigarette, taking a deep, ragged breath. What kind of intern was worth a $3 million investment? After finishing the cigarette, I dialed my assistant. That afternoon, 3 major contracts on the verge of being signed were indefinitely postponed. On a dozen ongoing joint construction projects, Anna's people were escorted off the sites. Simultaneously, exercising my rights as a primary shareholder and investor in Bancroft Enterprises, I formally demanded a complete overhaul of employee compensation, starting with a significant raise and bonus structure for all senior staff. My reasoning was simple. If a brand new intern could be gifted a multi-million-dollar condo, then the loyal employees who had built her empire deserved far more. Anna thought she could hide this, that I wouldn't risk our alliance over such a small matter. She forgot that when I want to know something, there's nowhere to hide. She had dared to cross a line, and she should have expected my retaliation. This wasn't about me being petty. A woman as calculating as her weighs every decision. This was a deliberate choice, and it was a choice I could not forgive. That evening, I had just gotten home when the front door opened again. Anna stormed in, her face a mask of fury. Leo followed her like a shadow, clutching a red file folder. I slipped on my house shoes, my voice dripping ice. Why did you bring him here? Anna forced a smile and walked over to me. Noah, don't be angry. I brought him here to clear things up. He had trouble getting a cab last night and didn't get home until dawn. I felt bad, so I arranged for a place for him closer to the office. That's all. You're overthinking this. Leo, his eyes red-rimmed, chimed in. Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry. I know I was wrong. I just live so far away, and Ms. Bancroft was just being considerate. It was the first time I'd ever received such an expensive gift. I was overwhelmed and forgot to refuse it. I didn't mean anything by it. Please don't misunderstand. As he spoke, he snuck a glance at Anna. I let out a cold laugh. Let's cut the crap. You're an assistant who lacks the most basic skills for the job. How did you get hired? Don't give me that training new talent line. There are a dozen departments you could have been sent to, a dozen managers you could have learned from. Why did you end up attached to Anna? In your current state, you offer her zero value. I felt my questions were reasonable, not aggressive. In our world, efficiency is everything. Leo swallowed hard, speechless. What are you doing? Anna snapped, stepping between us, her face flushed with anger. He just graduated. He's naive. He doesn't understand all this corporate maneuvering. You don't have to be so cruel. Cruel, I scoffed, pushing past her to snatch the red folder from Leo's hand. Arthur, our house manager, who had been waiting discreetly by the door, stepped forward. This property is yours now, I said, handing him the folder containing the deed. Leo's face turned a deep shade of crimson. His hands were clenched into tight fists, his lips trembling. He wanted to speak, but didn't dare, his eyes darting to Anna, begging for help. Anna, I said, my voice low and dangerous. We're both smart people. I know what game you're playing. Don't force me to burn it all down. Arthur took the folder from me and turned to Leo. This way, sir. Anna opened her mouth, then closed it, letting out a heavy sigh. She ignored Leo's desperate pleas, simply telling him to cooperate with Arthur. As Leo left, his steps were unsteady. He glanced back one last time, his eyes filled with a potent mix of resentment and wounded pride. At dinner that night, Anna's voice was subdued. Leo is just a kid who graduated from college. He's still very innocent. You were too harsh on him. I didn't hold back. Are you his mother? The moment he stepped into that office, he became one thing: an employee. If he can't perform, he gets replaced by someone who can. Do I really need to teach you such a simple concept? I let out a short, sharp laugh. But I know you won't listen. He's your problem, not mine. If you want to collect strays, that's your business. I took a bite of food. But you know my bottom line. I don't care if you pity him or if you have other ideas. End this now, before it gets to a point of no return. Anna sipped her soup. Okay, she murmured, her voice tired. You're overthinking it. It's not what you think. It's not that complicated. I put down my fork and looked at her, my gaze cold. Pity is the gateway to favoritism. Lowering your standards is the beginning of the fall. I'm not going to say any more. Think about it. Next time, I won't be so restrained. We slept in separate rooms that night. The feeling in my gut was getting stronger, like watching a project slowly rot from the inside, knowing exactly how it will end. She knew. She knew our marriage was more than a relationship. It was the bedrock of two corporate empires. The Carter family had poured real money and resources into securing her position as CEO, with the understanding that our combined strength would shield us from future market volatility. She had to know that any crack in our union would be an invitation for the sharks to start circling. Sure enough, the next morning, Leo was transferred to another department. I've cut off all contact with him outside of work, Anna told me, her voice flat, as if discussing a routine staffing change. But I saw the exhaustion in her eyes. I didn't respond. She hadn't done it for me. She had done it after a cold calculation of risk versus reward. She couldn't let an intern jeopardize the empire she had built. For a while, things at home returned to a quiet normal. Anna stopped mentioning Leo's name. Everything seemed to be back on track. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new joint venture, she was on my arm, smiling for the cameras. Instantly, the whispers in the financial world died down. The Carter-Bancroft alliance was solid. Our marriage was rock solid. We had too many eyes on us. Every move was scrutinized and overanalyzed. The event wrapped up in the evening. I was walking Anna to the parking garage when I saw a familiar figure. It was Leo, mopping the floor, his clothes dirty, his face slick with sweat. When he saw us, he froze. Ms. Bancroft. Mr. Carter, he mumbled, lowering his head. But his eyes kept flicking toward Anna, filled with the pain of a martyr. A colleague spilled something. They asked me to clean it up. Anna's expression changed in a heartbeat. The professional smile vanished, replaced by a dark cloud. She strode over to him and snatched the mop from his hands. Leave it. Someone else will take care of this. I stood where I was, watching her, the fire I thought had been extinguished roaring back to life. The moment the car door closed, Anna turned on me. Why are you targeting an intern? I already move him away from me. What more do you want? Why are you so obsessed with him? I laughed, a humorless sound. The person who assigned him janitorial duty was one of your managers, not me. He's an intern who can't do anything else. What's wrong with him cleaning a floor? Isn't that what interns are for? He's there to work, not to be treated like a prince. But she wouldn't let it go, her voice rising. That stunt you pulled last week took me days of damage control to fix. Can you just stop bullying a kid? My voice turned to ice. I held up one finger. First, he's almost 25. He's not a kid. I held up a second. Second, I don't give a damn how your company assigns tasks. Finally, I looked her straight in the eye, enunciating every word. And third, in my world, Leo doesn't even rank as high as a dog. And I would never, ever fight with you over a dog. She was speechless. She wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. The car filled with a heavy silence. I lit a cigarette. I knew, with chilling certainty, that the crack between us had just become a chasm. There was no point in saying more. If she was determined to entertain other interests, then I had no reason to compromise myself for the sake of an alliance. The car had barely stopped at our house before Anna jumped out, leaving her purse behind. I didn't go inside. I just put the car in reverse and drove back to my office. As expected, after a board meeting the next day, my assistant informed me that Anna had left on a business trip. With Leo. I laughed. This wasn't a business trip. This was a declaration of war. What surprised me more was her next move. On several of our largest joint projects, she used my own tactics against me, kicking all of my Carter Holdings personnel off the sites. She even fired the moles I had placed within her company. The employee who had assigned Leo to cleaning duty was demoted to the logistics department. I took this as her official challenge. I had my assistant contact every single employee she had fired and offered them better positions at Carter Holdings. Then I activated the contingency plans I had put in place years ago. On a dozen of our most profitable joint ventures, projects that were nearing completion and ready to turn a profit, I legally and officially pushed Bancroft Enterprises out. The buyout clause meant she would recoup her initial investment, but she would lose out on all the massive profits we were about to realize. These are projects funded by both our families. The news sent shockwaves through Bancroft Enterprises. Many of the senior staff were furious. Firing loyal, long-term employees for an intern had already created a sense of unease. This was a betrayal. For the next week, we were in a Cold War. While my move had hurt her bottom line, her core business remained intact. She thought she had the leverage to stand against me. I never contacted her, but news about her and Leo kept reaching me. It was as if Leo wanted the world to know. He posted a constant stream of photos on his Instagram. Anna in a meeting, the two of them at dinner, the two of them in a car. When my assistant showed me the pictures, I found them pathetic. A stray dog dreaming of heaven. 2 weeks later, Arthur entered my study. "Sir," he said cautiously, "the madam is home." I didn't look up from the documents I was reviewing, just grunted in acknowledgement. Why didn't come downstairs? Anna came up to the study herself. She hesitated before speaking, her voice soft. "My parents want us to come over for dinner this weekend. I think they're getting worried that we haven't sorted out this little issue." I said, continuing to work. Anna, taking this as agreement, seemed to relax. "When we're there, please don't say anything rash. We can handle our private matters ourselves." I slowly lit a cigarette, leaned back in my chair, and said casually, "I didn't say I was going with you." The smile on her face vanished. "What do you mean?" she asked, her tone sharp with disbelief. I didn't feel like playing games. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out a file, and tossed it on the desk in front of her. "Read it. If there are no issues, sign it." She looked confused, but when she saw the words on the cover, "Divorce Agreement," all the color drained from her face. Her head snapped up, her voice trembling. "Noah, what is this?" I tapped the ash from my cigarette, my expression blank. "I told you my bottom line. Read the terms. If they're acceptable, sign. Let's not drag this out. This was a family alliance. Let's end it cleanly." "Because of Leo?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief and filling with tears. "You want to divorce me over this?" "I told you, there is nothing going on between us. Why don't you believe me?" "This isn't about belief. You're a smart woman, Anna. I'm sure you could see Leo was manipulating you, that he had ulterior motives. But you kept it by your side. You enabled him, time and time again. You knew our marriage was tied to the fortunes of two families, yet you were willing to go to war with me over him." I paused, letting the words sink in. "In your mind, he is special. I don't have the energy to figure out if this was an emotional affair or a physical one. To me, betrayal is betrayal. There are no shades of green. I have the entire Carter Holdings empire on my shoulders. I don't have time for your childish love triangles. A clean break is better for both of us." The divorce papers slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. She started to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. "We're adults. We make our choices and we live with them. Read the agreement. Sign it. Don't hold onto any false hope. We move in the same circles. It's better to keep things civil." With that, I stood up and left the study. Behind me, I could hear her suppressed sobs, but I didn't turn back. The foundation of our marriage was trust. The moment she chose to defend Leo over and over again, that foundation had crumbled. As I was about to enter my bedroom, Anna rushed out and grabbed my arm. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse with desperation. "Noah, you have to believe me. Nothing happened. I just felt sorry for him. I was trying to protect him from being bullied." I nodded. "Okay," I said, then emotionlessly pulled my arm from her grasp. "I understand. She froze, stunned by my calm response. Clinging to a last shred of hope, she pressed, "I promise, I'll keep my distance from him from now on. Can we please not get a divorce?" I shook my head. When your boundaries for another man start to crumble, it's only a matter of time before everything else follows. I don't have the time or the energy to constantly monitor you. Maybe you're right. Maybe you had no romantic feelings for him. Maybe you were just using him as a pawn to test me, to see what you could get away with. Or maybe there was another reason. Frankly, I don't care to figure it out. You can keep moving your lines, but I can't move mine. I wasn't trying to manipulate you, she insisted. I just wanted you to see that I can stand on my own, that I'm not just an extension of you. I sighed. After all this, you still can't be honest with yourself. You don't give a damn about Leo. I know you got close to him to test my limits, to see if I would break my own rules for you, to gauge my tolerance, so you could have more leverage in our future business dealings. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. She wanted to deny it, but she was speechless. You know I hate complications, I said. And you have made this relationship complicated. So complicated that I have no desire to continue it. Honestly, your little drama with Leo is irrelevant. It's not important. Next time you want to play games with someone, make sure you have the cards to back it up. She sank to her knees, clutching my leg, her voice breaking. No, I was wrong. Forgive me. Please, don't divorce me. I'll fire him right now. I'll never have anything to do with him again. Can we just go back to how things were? For some reason, seeing her cry like this, I felt nothing. I turned and walked away, my voice cold. Talk to your family about the divorce. Soon. I couldn't stand to be in the house another second. As I walked out the front door, Anna scrambled to her feet to follow me, but I sidestepped her. Noah, she begged. Give me one more chance. We'll go to my parents' house for dinner. A family dinner. My only reply was the cold finality in my voice. Tell it to my lawyer. Once in my car, I sent a message to my assistant. Prepare to liquidate all joint ventures with Bancroft Enterprises post-divorce. Anna and I have been married for 5 years. Our businesses were deeply intertwined. Untangling them wouldn't be quick. I didn't have to sever all ties, but I always planned for the worst, especially when dealing with someone as prone to emotional volatility as a woman scorned. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work. Anna's calls flooded my assistant's phone. I had already blocked her number. 3 days later, after a long meeting, my assistant reported quietly, Ms. Bancroft was here to see you. She waited all morning, but left when you didn't come down. If she comes again, tell her I'm out, I said flatly. To me, Anna was now a stranger. Without the emotional connection, I could only see her through the lens of profit and loss. Was a partnership with the Bancrofts a high risk or a high reward? Would the fallout from the divorce impact Carter Holdings? Even Anna's emotional state was now just another variable in calculating whether she was a viable business partner moving forward. Perhaps our marriage was a mistake from the start. If we had only ever talked business, never emotion, we wouldn't be in this mess. One night, I was working late. As I reached my car in the deserted garage, a figure stepped out of the shadows. I was surprised to see it was Leo. He tilted his head, his eyes filled with a bizarre mix of defiance and contempt. I found it amusing. I held up 3 fingers. I'll give you 3 minutes to perform. Leo sneered. Noah Carter, you're just as arrogant as they say. You think your money makes you invincible? Look at you. I still beat you. He seemed to be waiting for an explosion, for me to lose my composure. I just glanced at my watch. 90 seconds, I reminded him. Not getting the reaction he wanted, his voice grew louder. What's so great about you people? You were just born lucky. I'm telling you, I did it all on purpose. If I had what you have, I'd be 10 times the man you are. I couldn't help but laugh. It was a welcome bit of comic relief after a long day. I checked my watch again. You have 15 seconds left. Seeing my unruffled calm, Leo began to tremble with rage. What are you so proud of? I'm the one who forced you into a divorce. Anna is an idiot. All I had to do was snap my fingers, and she came running. The fact that you were married to her just proves you're not so great yourself. I lower my hand, my voice even. Time's up. Not a bad performance. You actually amused me. Instead of wasting your time ambushing me, you should go convince Anna to sign the papers. If you do, Maybe you can help her out and enjoy a life of luxury." I didn't bother with him after that. I just got in my car and drove away. Leo couldn't get to Anna anymore. The day I filed for divorce, she had fired him. She even put the word out to the industry, blacklisting him from any reputable firm. His career, just as it was beginning, was over. That's the risk you take when you try to shortcut your way into the world of the wealthy. If you succeed, you're set for life. If you fail, the price is more than you can ever afford to pay. You don't even need people like me to lift a finger. There are always plenty of others willing to do the dirty work for you. The days turned into weeks, and Anna still refused to sign the divorce papers. Every time my lawyer contacted her, she was either in a meeting or simply didn't answer the phone. Finally, I had no choice but to go to the Bancroft residence myself. When I saw Anna's parents, they were unaware of the situation and greeted me warmly. I didn't beat around the bush. I placed the divorce agreement on the coffee table and explained the situation, cause and effect, in simple terms. "Mr. and Mrs. Bancroft, you can't force matters of the heart. A divorce is the best thing for both of us. And don't worry, even after we're divorced, our family's business collaborations won't be terminated." The Bancrofts were new money, but they had plenty of it. As long as Anna wasn't at the table, I had no problem using their capital to make myself even richer. Of course, if she decided to be foolish, I also had no problem crushing her company. Their faces fell. Anna's father started to speak, to plead, but I cut him off. "Sir, I know you want to talk me out of this, but my decision is final. Please convince Anna to sign. Dragging this out won't do either of us any good." With that, I stood to leave. A voice came from the top of the stairs. It was Anna, her eyes red and swollen. She opened her mouth, as if to say something. "Oh, you're here," I said, seeing her. "Good. Are you free tomorrow? Let's go to the courthouse and get this over with." She shook her head violently, her voice a desperate plea. "Noah, please, let's not get divorced. Please." I looked at her, my expression unmoved. "Anna, you're a smart woman. Stop acting like a fool." I turned and walked out, her heartbroken sobs following me. Another week passed before Anna finally relented. After the mandatory cooling-off period, we met and got our divorce certificates. She stood outside the courthouse and cried for a long time. I didn't wait. I just got in my car and left. After the divorce, our company's collaboration didn't end. In fact, it became even more frequent. Like I said, Anna is a smart woman. She wouldn't be stupid enough to let her personal feelings interfere with her company's growth. But because our families were no longer linked by marriage, the contracts became much stricter. For the Bancrofts to partner with us now, they had to put up 30% more capital than before. Even so, they weren't willing to let go of the lifeline we represented. I saw Anna again 3 years later at a friend's dinner party. She was dressed simply, standing alone in a corner, a shadow of her former fiery self. She saw me, hesitated, but eventually walked over. "Noah," she said softly. "Long time no see." I gave her a polite nod. The scandal 3 years ago had caused a major rift with the Bancroft Enterprises shareholders. They had even called a meeting to have her removed as CEO. It was her father who, at great personal cost, managed to save her position. But the damage was done. The internal turmoil led to a mass exodus of senior staff and talented employees. For the past 3 years, Anna had been walking on a tightrope, terrified of making another mistake. She looked at me with a hopeful expression. "Noah, are you free tomorrow?" I shook my head, my voice calm. "I have to take my wife to her prenatal checkup." "You're married?" she asked, her face a picture of disbelief. Why didn't I hear anything? "She's not in our world. Besides, it's a second marriage. No need for a big celebration." When she realized I wasn't joking, Anna's straight posture seemed to collapse. She turned and walked away, looking lost. On the street outside the venue, a beggar was lying on the pavement. His limbs were twisted at odd angles. "Please," he mumbled, "help me, please." The sound pulled Anna from her thoughts. She instinctively reached for her purse. But when her eyes met the beggar's, she froze. "Leo," she gasped. Leo recognized her too. A flash of hatred crossed his eyes, quickly replaced by a desperate plea. "Anna, MS. Bancroft, please, you have to help me." Before he could finish, three large, rough-looking men emerged from a nearby alley. Without a word, they started kicking and punching him. Anna watched for a moment, then turned and walked away, leaving nothing but Leo's agonized screams behind her.